Today I'm going to be sharing with you the tools I use to find all the places that I go on my adventures. So most of the places you've ever seen in any of my videos I have found using the method I'm going to share with you today. And I'm going to share a bunch of tips and tricks to help make the most of these resources. If you're new here, my name is Amanda, and this sleepy pup right here is my best friend, Frank. Together we've lived on the road for more than 8 years. Our first van was actually gifted to us. It was pretty old and worn down and neglected, and the engine seized. And I ended up in a tent and then a minivan, and I've slowly worked my way up to this current van, who I call Truck. And I've improved it over the years, so I didn't just jump right into a nice, comfortable van life. It's taken a lot of hard work to slowly get to where I am today, because what was most important to me was not the van, but the adventures I could be had in it, living in a van, not paying rent, and spending all my time out in nature. So before I dive into today's kind of tutorial, lesson, skill building episode, I wanted to show you a little highlight reel of some of the amazing places I've been to recently, all found with the process that I'm going to share with you today. So all those amazing scenes that I showed you are within a couple 100 kilometers of each other, which makes it a lot more affordable than zooming across the country, long distance drives from big name destination to big name destination. It allows me to avoid crowds, save money on gas, like I said, and live a more mellow and calm pace of life. So driving is actually not one of my favorite things to do. I'm not a huge fan of it, so I like to avoid it as much as possible. I didn't live in a van to spend my time driving. I moved into a van to spend my time in nature. I have a lot of other reasons for living in a van, but that is a big one of them, is spending time in nature and adventure and camping and just that kind of stuff is all really important to me. So before I get on with this show, I just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to today's sponsor, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills. From photography and illustration to graphic design, freelancing, and more, you'll find classes that will match your goals and interests. There's new premium classes launched each week, so there's always something new to discover. Since partnering with Skillshare, I've spent most of my time there focused on editing and filmmaking skills, which has really helped me to improve as a creator and grow my channel. But Frank hopped on and reminded me that there's also lots of great classes to help me prioritize my self-care and wellness, like this class by Jonathan Van Ness I really enjoyed, called The Ultimate Self-Care Playbook. Growing my skill set has brought me so much joy and freedom in life, and is something that I recommend for everyone out there. So the first 1,000 people to use the link in the description below or my code will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare when you join. A huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and now back to the reason you've all clicked on this video. All right, with all the formalities out of the way and you're still here, let's get into the meat of what makes this episode, I think, so awesome and useful and such an amazing resource. When I moved into a van, I was extremely broke. I didn't have a cell phone with a data plan, and for my first 6 years of living in a van, I did not have a data plan, which meant my only access to the internet was in town. So with that said, this is how I've been finding everything. Primarily this stack of Mapbooks right here, and the company that makes them is Backroads Mapbook. This stack right here encompasses British Columbia. There is Vancouver Island, Vancouver Coast, Caribou Chilcotin, Thompson Okanagan, Kootenay Rockies, and northern BC, and I have enjoyed adventures in all of these areas. So I'm going to tell you all about these books. This is not sponsored by them, but I have been a big fan for years. Before I even lived in a van, I was using these books to explore my local area and find hidden gems, campsites, and navigate the vast network of logging roads, because that is where, in my opinion, most of the most amazing ventures are to be had. There are a few safety disclaimers I would like to just point out before I get into it, because a lot of these backroads areas do not have phone service, and that is something that not everyone is used to. So you're very often on your own out there. So you want to be prepared to deal with whatever comes your way. Emergency beacons are a lot more accessible and available than they were when I first moved into a van. So it's a good idea to have one of those. I have a Garmin InReach, and it brings me a lot of comfort and security. And another thing is that when I started living in a van, there's a lot of resources that didn't exist, like Overlander and all these different campsite finding apps and this and that. I don't even know what they all are, because honestly, I don't really use them, because 99% of what I need is in these books. So aside from the books, which you can find at outdoor stores throughout British Columbia and at a lot of more kind of like rural gas stations, hunting stores, like all that kind of stuff, you can find these books. You can also order them online, and they do have, I think they have a digital format of them. I've never used it, so I can't speak to that. They also make these maps, which are waterproof. I have quite a few of these. I just didn't want to dig them all out. But if you're just going to be exploring one area, so this is one side of the map and the other, if you're just going to be exploring all your time within one area, then this saves you flipping pages. Although there is a lot of information in these you won't find in these. So I like these to have as well for driving navigation and just kind of like large scale planning. But as you'll see, there's some pretty good stuff in here. So I only have the books for British Columbia, but Backroads Mapbook does make books for other parts of Canada. There's Rockies, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. I'm sure they make them for all of Ontario. So pretty much wherever you come in Canada, there will be a book to help you along your way. And I have traveled a couple times in the United States, and this is what I used. This old paper map book that was handed down to me from a fellow van friend. He actually lived in a van for about 15 years before I ever did. And this book that he gave me was printed in 1992. And for my first 2 trips to the US, this was my sole resource. And if I needed to navigate in a city, I would find Wi-Fi, go on Google Maps, and write down the directions or draw little grids of the surrounding streets in case I missed my turn and navigate that way. So it was pretty, I don't know what the word is, rugged, not rugged. It was harsh. It was very harsh, but just a lot of trusting. And there's definitely times where I didn't take the wrong turn and I ended up in a different state than I intended to. But I did get a data plan 2 years ago. So after I go through these books, I will tell you about the other tools I've been using in modern years to assist these and help fill in the gaps and just deepen my exploration. So we're going to be using the Northern BC book to plan an example and to show you the power of these books for backcountry, back road, even highway, side of highway. Basically anything you want to check out, these have the power to help you get there. So very important is the legend. So these have information about all the different types of symbols and different road types, which is very important to keep that in mind for your vehicle, because this book does have 4x4 roads. It has a lot of places I will not take my van. So you don't want to just blindly go driving places. Then there are all these map pages. And this book has 83 map pages, and they're different scales. So there's ones that are small area and large area. So, you know, how far in inches will vary depending on that. So you want to check the scale down here. So then after the map pages, there's all these information sections at the back. So there's a section on Backroad Adventure, and it lists a whole bunch of different kind of attractions. We have a section on fishing adventures, different places to fish, what they're stocked with, information about that type of stuff, what type of fish is there. There's a section on hunting. There is a section on paddling adventures, paddling routes, river paddling, lake paddling, that kind of stuff. There's a section on parks. So this is information on all the BC parks that are within this map book. And so it'll have a description of the park as well as symbols as to the different amenities and activities available at the park. And then this section, which I use most often, which is rec sites, which is very similar to the parks, but about rec sites. So it'll have different symbols here. So like this rec site, Bulkley River Rec Site, has camping, picnicking, hiking, cycling, horseback riding, cross-country skiing, paddling, fishing, and wilderness to behold, or wildlife, actually, I should say. Then there is a section on trails, and this does not include all of the trails in the book, but just the more notable ones with information on the trails. And then there's a little section on wildlife adventures if you want to go wildlife viewing, and then winter adventures for cross-country skiing or that type of thing. So let's choose an area to go explore and see what's there. So say I'm going to be driving through BC up to Alaska. I'm going to take the Alaska Highway. So let's just look at map 73. There's no parks there. It looks like there's really nothing very interesting going on. But let's see what is around and how we can use this book to find out more information about that. All right. Page 73. So this is going to be northbound. And you can see here, there's a camping symbol. There's a hut. Here, there's a picnic and a rec site. So let's see if there's information on this rec site. Doohoo Lake Rec Site. So we go to the back to the rec site adventures section, and they're in alphabetical order once you're in the section. So we come over here, next page. Here, Doohoo Lake Rec Site, located west of the Alaska Highway near the Sakani Chief River. This small site has 6 campsites and a picnic shelter, a boat launch, canoeing, and some great hiking in the surrounding area. In the winter season, snowmobiling is all the rage, with numerous challenging trails to explore. Access is along Oil and Gas Road at mile 156 of the Alaska Highway. And so here's the symbols that go with that, and here's its location on the map. So we're going to go back to map 73. And we look at the rec site, and you can see the road. I know that size of black line is generally a pretty good 2-wheel drive road, not likely to need high clearance. It's also, from the contours, you can tell it's not steep, so it's probably not going to be destroyed. You can see this is within a park boundary. There's trails, there's a waterfall, there's a provincial park, and we are heading up the highway. You can see all these side roads. And so you can see, like here, the road crosses a river. And so even though there's no attraction listed at this river, there's probably going to be a place to pull over on this road, and you can just go check out the river and see what's there, have a dip, cool off, let your dog have a drink, whatever, have a nice picnic. It's better than stopping right on the highway. So we're heading up the highway. Oh, there's another provincial park there. So let's try a different area of the map. One of these down here that is a bit finer detail. The area around Smithers, BC, which I've passed through a few times, is page 36. So here we have the town of Smithers. So as you can see, the map book is not good for navigating in town, but you'll have cell phone service. So you can use Google Maps or whatever maps you like to use. But you can see there's camping, and so some of these are going to be pay camping and some of them are going to be a rec site. So if it doesn't have a name listed, it is very most likely a pay camping private campground, and then you could just look them up online. So lakes, you have a boat launch there, you have a viewpoint here, you have some trails. There was lots of mountain biking around Smithers. This little symbol is helpful. That is visitor information. So sometimes those are visitor information centers and sometimes they're just signboards on the side of the highway. You have picnicking there. Here's trailheads, and quite often trailheads are a pretty good place to spend the night if you've gone hiking for the day. Most of them don't have signs saying not to stay there. You have a tent camping. Occasionally you can stay in vehicles at those, but not always. They're definitely not Big Rig friendly if you see that symbol. And yeah, so you can see there's tons and tons and tons to do near the highway and off the highway. This is what I look for quite a lot, rec site. Those are the places I really like to go because they're almost all free, and the back of this book will tell you if there is a fee for it. Lookout points, and then so you can see there's thick black line there, and then it gets narrower. So I generally will try to avoid the thin black ones. Quite often they'll require high clearance or you'll be scraping bushes on the side of your van. So, and then also if you look closely, the maps, they do all have contour lines so you can get an idea for the lay of the land. I use these books in two different ways. One is I look at a page on the map where I'm going to be and I just scan and I just cross-reference with the back to see what's around. Another way is I look at the back for something that might be interesting and then see where it is on the map. So there's a lot of pros and cons to exploring this way with a map. A pro for me is when I'm offline, I have tons of information. I don't need an internet connection. And it's often how I will spend my evenings in camp, is just looking ahead at the map where I'm going to be the next day, seeing what's there, and seeing what I might be interested in checking out. You definitely want to keep your eye out for when you see stars on the map, because stars are like kind of like special attractions or like unique features such as a cave or an archaeological site or something like that. But some of the cons are that not all the rec sites are used that often, which is a good thing if you're someone like me and you don't mind things being really, really rugged, but sometimes I show up and they're pretty run down and I could see people being disappointed to get out there and have the picnic tables kind of decaying into the earth and the outhouse is kind of like that, or the road in is really, really rough. So because I travel slowly, I prefer to just go poke around. There is no assurance that you're going to find amazing things, but if you're just out there poking around and you have a good attitude about it, you're gonna have a good time. You are gonna find places that are really nice, and you're gonna find places to enjoy in solitude. If you just go to the places that you've seen shared on Instagram or you know of because they're popular, you're going to be surrounded by other people. And for me, that's just not up my alley. I like quiet places and I like off-grid places and I like unregulated places. So I can just let Frank be off leash because he's a good dog. He's not running around harassing wildlife. He's not destroying anything. He's just hanging out by me anyways. And I don't need to be, have all these rules on us when he's not giving anyone a reason to have rules on him to begin with. So Yeah, I love just poking about and just exploring. I've had series of videos, I think at one point 4 videos in a row, were all on the same page of a map. 4 videos, I didn't even leave a map page. That's how much potential there is. And some of those things I checked out weren't listed at all. There was just a road and a geographical feature on the map, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna go check that out. Looks like I might be able to get there. Often what I'll do is I'll just drive really slowly on back roads and keep an eye out for any pieces of flagging that might signal there's a rough trail, or I'll just see a trail and there happens to be a pullout, and I'll stop and I'll go take a walk and see what's down there, because I enjoy the quest of finding places and getting to know an area thoroughly. If you're looking to just like make a trip from A to B and you want to see the top sites along the way, then this is not how you're gonna want to explore. But if you are like me, you have a bunch of time, or you want to get to know the area where you live better, then this is the best resource available in Canada. And they're pretty cheap. I think, yeah, they're like $26 each. I don't know how long I've had this one, so maybe it's gone up to 30, I don't know. But it's a really good bang for your buck if you make use of them, especially if you go stay at the places that are free. And you can't run out of power on a book. You can't run out of signal on a book. The information is there for you to access. What's nice about these is they are waterproof, so and a bit more detailed. The map's expanded, so these are a bit better if you're going to be using them for following a trail where you're using the topography to kind of like keep yourself in line or whatever. So comes in really handy for further detail of what's in these. And that is how I went about finding everything before I lived in a van and while living in a van. And it's a little heavy, but I love my little map book collection. So yeah, it's been really good, years and years, and I feel like I've barely just skimmed the surface of what there is to get to know. Now, this is a Canadian resource. I don't know if there's anything like this in the US. If you know of something like this in the US, or what's available in your state that's kind of like a comprehensive resource like this, please leave it in the comments below, because I have a large part of my audience that's in the US, but I also know a lot of them have expressed desire to come to Canada. So I present you with this amazing option. So if you have further questions about these books and navigating and that kind of stuff, leave them below, and maybe I'll do a Q&A to follow up in the future. So with that shared, 2 years ago, I was down in the US and I got a prepaid phone plan. And so for the first time ever, I had data on my phone while I was out exploring. And I remember I got it outside of Tucson, and then we drove into Tucson. I remember I was caravanning with friends and we were going to meet at the Costco, and I put in, Costco, and just let Google Maps navigate me to Costco. And it was amazing. Took so much stress out of city driving, and I had never had that experience before. I know I'm very late to the game, but it was really, really good. And so over the years, I have started to lean into using Google Maps just a little more, not necessarily to find things to go to, but sometimes I will choose an area I'm going to explore in here, and then I'll just cross-reference with the satellite image to see what the terrain is like, what the vegetation cover is like, and just get a feel for that. And there's 2 other apps that I occasionally use to complement my book use. One is All Trails, and I pay for an All Trails subscription. And this is not an endorsement of All Trails. Over the past couple of years, every time they do an update, in my opinion, the app gets worse and it gets slower. But what I like about it is that I have the ability to download the maps for offline use because I pay for the app. And then with GPS, I can see where I am. So I will often, before I go to an area, just look up the trails that are in that area and then download the background maps for those trails. Even if I don't intend to hike those trails, that allows me the map for offline use. And then I can also see where I am when I'm out on the road if I lose my place on this. But I have gotten pretty good over the years at map reading and following my way on a map. But it's a good way to help you learn, because map reading and using maps can be pretty intimidating if you're not familiar with it. So having a digital copy of the map where you can see where you are on the map, cross-reference with this, and then use this for all the information that's around is really handy. Also, All Trails is available in the US. I don't know if it's available outside Canada and the US because I haven't left Canada and the US since using All Trails, but that is something that I do find pretty handy. There's not a lot of other information in there, but what I do like is that I can get information about the trail, such as the distance and especially the elevation gain, which is really handy because Frank is getting older, and so I like to find shorter and flatter trails. So I'm able to filter for things within his comfort ability on All Trails. The second or third app that I use very occasionally is iOverlander, and I have very mixed feelings about iOverlander. But I find it handy in urban areas that I'm not familiar with. So if I'm just passing through a city and say I want to do chores, so I'm going to arrive late, I want to stay nearby in town and then do my chores in the morning and get out, or do my chores, spend the night, and then leave, I will use iOverlander to find information on what's like a fairly safe place to spend the night in an urban area. I really avoid staying in urban areas. I generally don't use iOverlander for backcountry stuff because I found if it's listed, there's more likely to be other people there, and they're also likely to have garbage or feces. There's places I've stayed throughout my whole time living in a van, and they were really quiet and they were really nice and they were really clean, and then somebody listed it on iOverlander, and I go back after it's been listed and they're trashed. Because when you're just handed things, you tend to not respect them the same way you do if you actually have to put in the effort and work for it. And also, a lot of the places that I go to, most of the places I visited on the North Island are not listed on iOverlander. Some of them aren't even listed in here, but they're definitely not on iOverlander. And even the places that sometimes were listed on iOverlander with the GPS coordinate, there was still no way for Google Maps to send me there. There was no known route. So yes, you might look at iOverlander and go, oh, this place looks nice, and people have described it as being a nice place to go, but you're still going to need to follow the map to find your way there. So yes, those are very secondary in my exploration, and I'm a map person. I love maps. Some other things I've done in the past to help find information, especially like when I've been in the US, is I just go into like the public lands office, like the National Forest Ranger Station or visitor information, and I just talk to the person. I just ask, and they give you maps and they give you resources and they suggest things, and they'll often also tell you like the rules of the area, how to respect the land. Like when I went to Moab, I went to the visitor information center. The guy was really friendly. He gave me maps and he says, camp here, don't camp here. You can't do this. You know, you're allowed to do this here. You're not allowed to do this there. And it gave me all the information I needed to respect an area that I otherwise didn't really have a lot of information on, because I don't live in the desert. I live in the rainforest. And yeah, it's complicated to go to a new area and not understand all the different nuances of land use and land designation. So Something you will find if you're used to traveling in the US is that in Canada, the different types of public land are not like listed and signed like they're in the US. In the US, you drive on to BLM land and it's like BLM land, and it tells you you're there. You enter the national forest, it tells you you're there. But in Canada, public land is a little bit mysterious. You'll know when you're in a provincial park, but other than that, who knows? So my general rule of thumb is if it says private property, no trespassing, I don't trespass. And otherwise, I just poke around and I go slow. And I also understand that a lot of those roads exist because of resource extraction. So you want to be aware of people working and keep yourself safe. So before I say goodbye, something I really like about exploring this way is that it's a complete mystery, and I show up somewhere and I'm never disappointed because I don't have expectations. And I like to be curious and I like to follow my curiosity, and I just feel like it's always rewarding. And then there's other places you get to where they're like super incredible and they're just the most amazing days, but I never really feel disappointed in what I find because I'm always satisfying my curiosity and I'm always getting a better idea of the landscape where I am. I have lived in a van for more than 8 years, and I've spent probably 80% of my time in southern BC, and I'm not tired of it yet because there's just so many nooks and crannies to go poking about in. All right, so that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully it didn't end up being too long or too boring or too dry, and I hope you found it informative, and I hope you're inspired to learn the art of map navigation. I think it's a really fun pastime, and yeah, a great way to spend the evening is planning your next few days by glazing over the maps and seeing what kind of treasures they have in them. So yeah, I just want to give a huge thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I would love if you'd share this video with somebody you think would benefit from it. That would really help out my channel. Yeah, I really appreciate you watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Oh, look at you with your curiosity and desire to learn and excellent attention span, making it all the way to the end of this rather long video. Congratulations. If you're interested in a little bit of information, backroad safety and bears, I talk about it in this video, or you could check out this playlist and binge watch from the very beginning. I have tons of videos with tons of beautiful sights, so if you're looking for something else to watch, maybe consider those. And yeah, thank you, and we'll see you soon. Bye.